Hello. Today I wanted to analyze the ongoing drama between Ellen DeGeneres and war criminal George Bush, but I wanted to do it through a historical lens. As you probably know, Ellen DeGeneres was recently photographed sitting next to George Bush at an NFL game. She even went as far to say that he is a friend of hers in statements later made on her own show. A lot of people have already went into how it's not really good for her to associate with someone who is a known war criminal, um, and also a denier of LGBTQ rights. But what I wanted to do instead was to use the historical analysis term politics of memory. Politics of memory is a constant negotiation about which parts of history we want to remember and which parts of history we want to forget. A requisite for someone to participate in the politics of memory is that they have a certain level of social capital by which they can use to present one historical narrative over another. If they do not have this social capital, if they do not have, for instance, a large following, then no one will listen to and repeat this specific historical narrative that someone will want to present. But if, on the other hand, this particular narrative is given enough attention, it can be described as an official narrative because enough people believe it, and that will make that narrative part of the historical reality that we view the world through. In this situation, we can look at Ellen DeGeneres as being of a certain of having a certain social capital through her large audience, which she can use to push a specific historical narrative. For one, she is contributing to the long-going media rehabilitation of the image of George Bush. George Bush being a man who should be rotting in prison for the countless lives that his administration has been responsible for taking. By not being as bad as Trump, the average Ellen viewer, one could call them the average rainbow capitalist, the image of George Bush and the historical narrative about George Bush is completely whitewashed. Gone are memories of the waterboarding laws that his administration set in effect. Gone are all the memories of the countless dead people that I also mentioned earlier. And gone are all the refusals of accepting LGBTQ people's rights. This perceived past that you could call a past of respectability and decency in American politics is very clearly what Ellen DeGeneres wants to reproduce on her show. And to me, it comes most clearly when she shows a tweet on the large screen behind her. This tweet reads in full, Ellen and Bush together makes me have faith in America again. The key word in that tweet being the word again, which suggests that there must be some part of the US history where one could have faith in the system, or where the system was more deserving of a certain kind of faith. This reaches beyond even DeGeneres and Bush as people, because it suggests that there's an even longer period of time that is deserving of a certain faith from the American people, and even people outside of America, to have faith in the country as a system. But when we say this, when are we talking about? Are we talking about when Jim Crow laws were still active in the US? Are we talking about when the US did a genocide on Native Americans? Are we talking about when the US invaded Vietnam, or Afghanistan, or Iraq? When in particular was there a time where one could have faith in the US as a country? My reason for bringing up these questions is that it points out that a certain narrative of history is being pushed. A liberal fantasy where there was a point in time when the US could be seen as respectable and decent. The truth is that the history of the US is filled to the brim with imperialism, exploitation, and silencing of critical voices. But through DeGeneres having this social capital through her large audience, she is able to participate in this negotiation of history. and thereby being part of deciding which parts of history we as a collective want to remember and which part we want to forget. In this narrative, it is only recently that the US as a system is not deserving of this faith anymore. One could, in this narrative, chalk it up to people like Trump or polarization of politics being the part that make the US undeserving of faith, and not the never-ending history of exploitation that the country is very well known for. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to use a historical term being politics of memory to show how history is negotiable and how it is negotiated through certain narratives that gain popularity on top of other narratives. I hope you enjoyed the video. Press like if you want to see more videos. Bye.